Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of The Hack Share. Wait for this intro for my next guest. It is going to be an absolute incredible episode, and I can't wait for you to listen to my guest and what he's been up to. But my guest is the chair at the Rugby League World Cup 2021. He is a senior non-exec director at the Rugby Football League. He's a former MD of Metrobank. He is an elite sports mentor for the Premier League. He is a leading conference speaker in the UK, Europe, Africa, and Australia, covering topics such as customer excellence, leadership, change, employee engagement, and how to build high-performing teams through growth mindset. He has also received an MBE for services to sport. He is the winner of the Institute of Directors, UK Non-Executive Director of the Year 2017. My guest today is Chris Brindley. Chris, thank you so much for being on this show, and I can't believe how much you have achieved and what you're doing. It is extraordinary.
Very kind of you to say so, John. John, I'm delighted to be here. I'm a huge fan of your podcast. I think there's some great stories, and I've learnt lots from them. So if I can add a couple of nuggets or pearls of wisdom that helps other people, then I'm absolutely delighted to do so. So thanks for the invite.
No, thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. And thanks for listening to the show as well. So how have you been actually? What have you been up to recently?
I know we've had a terrible 10 months as a country. I've been very fortunate. My family are well. We're all here. We're all safe, which is really, really important. And first and foremost, I'm grateful for that. And sometimes we miss the things we're grateful for. I'm just grateful for my family and my wealth and my health. I've been up to lots, as you can imagine. The Rugby League World Cup is now only a matter of months away. We've got 4 tournaments to get off. That's the men's, the women's, the wheelchair, and the physical disability. It's the first time that any sport has tried to hold 4 simultaneous tournaments. It's going really well. We're just waiting to find out about crowds back in stadia. Great news that the vaccine is now above 16 million, and reports that everybody will be vaccinated by the autumn is really encouraging. Our tournament starts on the 23rd of October. So we've been busy making sure all the plans are ready for that. The Premier League, as you know, has continued. So I've been working with a couple of the elite academy directors, and we're all experiencing new challenges about getting staff back into training grounds in a very biosecure way and safe way. So there's been lots of stuff there. The Rugby League, again, we've finished Super League. We start the season again next month. So again, there's been lots of plans there with the RFL. And I'm also working with the Manchester Football Association. So, grassroots sport is really important to me. It's where I learned a lot of my team building skills and leadership skills. So I put something back into that. So I've been keeping really busy. I'm a non-exec director of a couple of other businesses. So things are working well. So I'm in a really good place. Thanks for asking.
That's brilliant. And I want to get more into the Rugby League later in the conversation. But for listeners and even viewers who haven't clicked on to this show before or know what the Hack Share is about, what I do on this podcast is I find out from my amazing guests their journey, how they overcame adversity and mental health challenges to now becoming successful and turning their lives around. The aim of this is to inspire and help you. But Chris, my first question is, with everything that you said that you've been going on, how do you actually manage your time? Because you've got so many things that you're working on, as well as holding many board level responsibilities.
Yeah, I think at times it's a fascinating subject, actually, John, and it's one that people who I talk to sometimes don't really give it as much thought as I would like, and often coach people on that. I think time is more important than money. And people might think that's a really strange statement, but I can just elaborate. If I took you to an ATM and asked you to see your bank balance of cash, you know how much you've got and you know how much you've got to spend. The thing with time is you don't know how much you've got left. You know how much you've spent, but you don't know how much you've got left. So at the bottom of my email, for example, I sign off with Carpe Diem, which is Latin, as you know, for seize the day. Yeah. Because I can't help people have more time, because it'll always be sort of seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months. But I can help you earn more money. So if you wouldn't let people steal your money, I'm pretty obsessive about not letting people steal my time. So I almost look at every minute as
Right.
an investment, and therefore I want it to be the best use of my time. If my time is a precious resource, so typically, number one, I always find things I love doing because that's a good use of time because it brings me enjoyment. Part of helping others is what really motivates me. I talk about one of my mission statements is to develop winners in life. So I love coaching to help people be successful with their definition. So if time is used helping others, which is why your invite was so gratefully received. Also, I tend to spend time with people I learn from or I enjoy being with. So I tend not to want to spend and consume time with negative people that are not helping grow people. Instead, try to knock them down. I don't like that. And to be honest, I don't watch shit TV. I couldn't tell you what happens in Love Island or some of the other nonsense that doesn't help me grow. So I will watch a really good documentary, or I will watch maybe a sporting event to try and learn some of the coaching strategies. But unless I'm going to enjoy it, I don't waste time. And you and I have got the same 24 hours in the day, the same as as the people watching this. So again, I just asked everybody, if you work out where you spend your money and you stop spending money in places where you think it's a waste of money, take the same approach with time.
I love that analogy, and it seems that you're really big on personal development and self-help, which is great. And this is what I've been doing since lockdown, even more so because I want to learn and grow as much as I possibly can. And it's really great to hear, your analogies and the time and money. But when you were growing up, bringing it right back, if that's okay, what was the ultimate goal for you? Because I know that you're a coach, you're a mentor, you've been an MD at banks, and also you're involved heavily within sport. What was the route that you wanted to go down?
Well, I think we have to go right back to the very beginning, John, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Look, my father walked out on me, my brother, and my mum when I was 3 months old. We lived in a 2-bedroom council flat in a tough part of Manchester. Couldn't really afford much. I had no relationship with my stepfather, who was just a bully. And therefore, my love of sport came about because when I went and did sport at school, I just loved it. And it actually took my mind off some of the other stuff that was happening in my life. So I've got a love of sport for that. And I was just blessed with a great PE teacher at primary school, a guy called Ray Woods, who actually started to talk to me about lessons in life through sport. So team building, communication. I was rubbish at school academically. I just was. That's probably because I didn't enjoy it. But I enjoyed sport. And therefore, I went through secondary school again. My love of sport. I had a great head teacher who recognised my love of sport, gave me some leadership opportunities in sport. And as a result of that, I got some really good lessons in life. And I probably didn't know it then because it probably wasn't invented by Dan Goleman at the time. But although I didn't have IQ, I had a good level of EI, emotional intelligence, and the ability to build relationships with people. And ultimately, that's what's got me where I am, together with, I got my coaching badges quite early. I had a really bad leg break, so I've not been able to play soccer since my early 20s or any other physical contact sport because it would break again and I'd have a real leg length problem. So I got my coaching badges, and what was fascinating when I went back into the workplace at age 19, 20, was realised that there were lots of managers that would bark orders and scream and shout, but there weren't many good coaches. And actually, I decided I'd be a good coach in the workplace as well as on the sports field, and that's why I got to where I've got, is because I've worked with people to make them better at who they are. I've shown a caring for them outside of the workplace. So I want them to have a really holistic approach to who they are and what they do, whether that's family, whether that's colleagues, whether that's charity. I'm a big fan of supporting charities in helping them be better, being an organisation that can spread the message and spread the care. And ultimately, I didn't have a dream job. I sort of think I wanted to be a footballer, and I played for Manchester Boys and Greater Manchester Boys, but I knew deep down I wasn't good enough to play at the top level. So I was good at maths, mental maths, and that's what took me into banking. I started off printing checkbooks, which was the lowest entry job you can possibly do. But as I say, what really transformed my life was my hard work ethic, which my mum gave me, but also the ability to coach. And as a result of that, if you can make people better at who they are and what they do because you show a caring for them, fun enough, they repay you with loyalty and actually want to be part of your team. And therefore, as a team and other teams that I've led, we just went on and did some pretty cool stuff. And I was just privileged to be part of that dressing room almost, and that's how I see teams. So, I never dreamt of becoming a big sports administrator or becoming a managing director of a bank. I just wanted to be better at who I was. And ultimately, that journey just looked after itself, really.
That's really interesting that you say that, especially with the academic and emotional intelligence factor. It seems like, you're really, really good at what you do, which is why you've actually progressed so far. If you look back at, the careers that you've had being, the MD and being, board level responsibilities and managing multiple and juggling multiple different things, what was the most challenging time in your career?
I think the 2008 banking crisis. I was managing director for NatWest, North of England and Scotland. I was responsible for 4,000 colleagues. And basically, almost every day we were seeing this crisis unfolding. And I was offered another job at the time. And I turned it down. And somebody asked me the question, why? Why? Because it was in a different industry and it was a bigger job and more money and all of that. And I had to turn it down because I couldn't look the people in the eye. It wasn't me that was going to jump ship. My job was to get everybody through that crisis, through the other end, and make sure that people were all right. I remember stories of customers behaving terribly to people in my team around all the various branches. And I closed people's accounts. I absolutely refused for customers to abuse my people that I work with, my colleagues. They weren't responsible for the banking crisis. So, it was a really challenging time. But the thing about challenging times is have good people around you, have good support networks, whether that was at home or that was in my team. And we made sure we looked after each other. So if one of us got kicked, 4,500 of us limped. And then we looked after each other. So that was the most challenging time in my professional career because it was just unfolding, as I say, on a daily basis with mergers and takeovers and various other things. And I wasn't in control of the event. But what I do believe sport teaches you is to control the controllables and control those things you can influence. And I could control how I cared and treated my colleagues and my teammates, and that's what I did, and we came through it well.
Yeah, and that must have been really tough, actually. If you're looking after so many people during the banking crisis. I mean, how did you manage all of the people? I mean, because I know that you're coaching them. I can imagine that took up so much of your time, but also for you it must have been exhausting as well for you personally. Would that be right?
Yeah, it's not a word I associate with, John, and let me tell you why. I've had some great lessons in life from others, and one of them is a guy called Jack Black, and I don't mean the actor. Jack Black had a massive influence on me. He runs a company called Mind Store, and to this day I go and watch Jack at every opportunity, and he talks about your mental architecture. He talks about mental strength and resilience. And very early on, I saw him talk about the importance of self-talk. So I encourage people, if they need more energy, to program more energy and not use the E word or the K word when people feel that way. Focus on what you want to happen, not what you don't want. So again, I talk about wellness, not any other word. So I've been beneficial that Jack gives you tools and techniques to actually create more energy, and they're just wonderful techniques. So I'm a big fan of neuro-linguistic programming. And ultimately, that's what it's a format. And therefore, I have got high levels of resilience because I tap into the tools that I've been using now for over 30 years. So again, as long as you put one step forward in front of each other, you're going to make progress. Knowing the bumps in the road, knowing the times where you might get knocked over, but the answer is to just get back up and have good networks. I keep saying it. Have good people around you that give you more energy, that don't drain your energy. I do see people that just bitch, moan, and whinge. I call them BMWs, and they've got this. They just drain people. And my lesson is stay away from them. Go work with people. Go associate with people that actually give you more energy, not those that take it away. So, I surround myself with people that give me the energy, and no other people.
Mm. Yeah, it's really. I've heard of Jack Black, but recently, as you know, I've set up a life coaching business, and I'm becoming an NLP practitioner myself, and that's helped me deal with past trauma when I was a kid growing up. And I think it's so key to be associated with people who are positive, that can lift you up, not drag you down into that negative mindset. But it is so for the people who are listening that may not have got into NLP or know the benefits, what would be the one tip that you would give to them right now if they don't have that network and that support group of people who are positive that can lift them up? What would you say to those people if they are feeling down because of what's going on in the current climate?
So again, another huge influence on me was a lady called Penny Ferguson. And Penny has a book and a program called The Living Leader. And I was honoured to actually be licensed by Penny to deliver the program in-house at Metrobank, where I worked. And one of the really powerful things we did on that program was we set homework one night, and homework was to write down every day 50 things you're grateful for. And then the cohort would go away and come back 6 weeks later. So the first question I asked was, how did you do with your list of things you're grateful for? Then everyone went, oh, Chris, it was really, really tough. We got to 10 or 15 maybe. And I said, well, what if I told you I could have a list of 50 before 9 a.m. every day? And they went, no, that's really impossible. And the fact is, when I wake up in the morning, John, I'm really grateful because I don't want the day to come where I don't wake up. Secondly, I wake up in a warm bed, and I'm really grateful for that. I then get up and go to the bathroom, and the fact that I've got good sanitary, and I'm grateful for that. I then wash my hands. I've got running water, hot and cold. I'm really grateful for that. I'll go downstairs and put the kettle on. That means I've got a source of electricity. I'll get food from the fridge. I've got food. I'll get dressed. I'll go to work. I've got a mobile phone. I'm hugely grateful for what I have. And I think a lot of people just almost take things for granted. And certainly in the last 10 months, we've had a lot of things that we were grateful for but didn't quite realise it. I think we're now realising what we were and could and should have been grateful for. So, I came from a background of no money. So as my mum's love and affection for me, her teachings of how to be a good citizen, truly, truly grateful for. So I'd ask people perhaps that are feeling at the moment that things aren't on their side, maybe to just do the exercise of write down what you're grateful for. I'm grateful for my children being healthy. Truly, truly grateful. I'm grateful that I've got 2 legs. I can go out and do a walk after this podcast with a really good friend, and of course it'll be socially distanced. But I'm grateful for friendships. So I'd really encourage anybody to do the exercise of writing down what you're grateful for, because I reckon you could come up with a really, really good list. And actually that goes back to what matters most.
I think practicing gratitude is key. And from what you're saying is that obviously that's a big part of your morning routine. And I started practicing more gratitude because that's helped me massively, as well as things like journaling and meditation. If we looked at your morning routine, just to jump onto that, I always ask my guests this.
Yeah.
What is your morning routine?
So can I put it into context, John, that might help everybody?
Yeah.
I'm blessed that I'm a coach to some elite athletes in the business world now, and some of them have won gold medals at Olympics. And what I wanted to find out was what was their routine. So it's great that you asked me, but I'll put it in context. And when I observed an athlete, I broke their routine down into 4 stages. Warm up. So elite athletes always warm up. The second stage is peak performance. The third stage is warm down. And the fourth stage is quality recovery time. So I've now adapted that to how I operate. I also, my teams, we operate that same model in how we warm up for a meeting, how we peak perform in a meeting, how we warm down after a meeting, how we have quality recovery time. So you're asking me in effect about my warm up. So number one, I always have hot water with half a lime and half a lemon squeezed in it, because I know that actually is good for cleansing the body after all of the stuff during your sleep as the crap's accumulated. So we get rid of that through a good hot water and, as I say, citrus fruits. I then always read. So I always want to get my brain warming up. So I'll always read 2 or 3 chapters of a book that is about being better at who I am and what I do. I'll always play either Sudoku or Solitaire in the morning. And again, that is about absolutely getting my brain up to speed as quickly as possible. And that for me is a warm up. I'll then do exercise. I'm fortunate I've got an exercise bike. So typically I'll do 20 kilometres in the morning. And then it's the traditional, it's the shower and everything else. But it's about warming up. So I want to get in a good routine that knows that I'm looking after my body and I'm looking after my brain, because my brain's a muscle. And just like all muscles, if you exercise it well, it'll work well. If you don't, it might not. So I make sure that I do that as my routine.
It's a good morning routine. My wife started encouraging me to drink the hot water and the lemon to cleanse all the toxins that accumulate overnight and help the digestive system. I think that's really key. I haven't really got into Sudoku or solitaire I used to play years ago, but I think exercising the brain is key. So I really need to obviously learn from you and do and incorporate more brain exercises when I wake up. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. But moving on, because I know obviously you're wearing the Rugby League World Cup T-shirt. You got the ball in the background. This is such a cool thing to be part of. I can imagine being the chair of this. And it sounds like from what you mentioned earlier on in the conversation that it is quite challenging. There's a lot to achieve. How did you first get involved in being the chair with the Rugby League World Cup?
It started by joining the board of the Rugby Football League. It's a northern sport. I'm a proud northerner. So to get the opportunity to work for the Rugby Football League, which is a game that's not known to everybody, but from an excitement point of view, the ball's in play a lot more than other sports, so there's always excitement. It's got great physicality, great excitement, and some of the games over the last few years, literally, Super League Grand Finals have been won with the last kick of the ball, or the $1 Million Challenge, which is a promotion relegation. That's been done in golden point time. So I love the game because it's part of all sports. Look, I'd watch Tiddlywinks because I love watching how people master a craft or how they deal with things mentally in sport, thinking correctly under pressure. And as a result of being on the board of the Rugby League, when the last chair stepped down, I was asked to take the chair role, and I'm just hugely privileged and passionate. And it's some of the special things the board and the team led by John Dutton have done. For example, we're giving wheelchair and the women's tournament equal prize money to men. It'll be the first time that women in wheelchair get participation fees to sort of soften the fact that they might not be earning salary if their employers don't allow them paid leave. wheelchair, a lot of people think is a disability sport. Rugby league wheelchair isn't. Rugby league wheelchair is for anybody that can manoeuvre a wheelchair. So if you look at true equality in sport, there is very few sports on the planet that allow able-bodied and disabled people to play in the same team. And if you look at the England team for rugby league wheelchair, we've got a pair of brothers. Sadly, one lost his legs early on in life, and his able-bodied brother searched high and low for a sport he could play with his brother in the same team. Because a lot of Paralympic sports, you have to have a disability to be able to play in the Paralympic. And actually in the same England team, we've got a female player. So it's the absolute brilliant sport. And, it's going to be live on the BBC during the tournament. And that for me is really, really special, that will showcase a new sport to this country that will really, really show equality at its very, very best, diversity at its very, very best. I'm just proud of things like that. We've done with the first ever global sports tournament to have a mental health charter. So we've partnered with Movember, and we're going to make sure that the whole of the sport of rugby league will become more skilled and more aware of mental health and how we can manage it as well as we can, and where to go for help if we need external help. So traditionally, a lot of people will be talking about the men's tournament. Of course, that's going to be brilliant. We're going to have a women's tournament. We're going to have the men's and women's final on the same day in the same stadium at Old Trafford in Manchester. And again, that's just going to be special for men and women to play the finals, big stadia, same day. Hugely proud. And the physical disability is a recent World Cup edition that's being led by the comedian Adam Hills, who actually plays for Warrington in this country and will be playing for Australia in the PDRL, Physical Disability Rugby League Tournament. So just hugely privileged. We've got some great stadia. Ticket sales are going really well. And we just want to create something special. And I think after the last few months, I know the country will be wanting something special to look forward to as well.
I didn't know how involved it was in terms of inclusion, but yeah, in terms of what you're saying, it's so good, and I think it's definitely needed. And yeah, I hope everybody gets behind it and watches it. In terms of the tickets, where can they're not? Are they sold out? Can people still purchase them?
No. We've halted ticket sales only because at the moment we don't know how many people we're going to be allowed in the stadiums. That's to be decided, and that's government's decision. Sadly, it's not mine. Otherwise, I'd have full stadium. But we expect tickets to go on sale again when it's safe for people to be allowed back into stadia. So it's probably watch this space, John, for people who are looking for tickets. But, there's some special games being played. We'll be the first ever non-football game to be played at the Emirates Stadium, the home of Arsenal football. So that's going to be special. And that'll be a semi-final. We're playing at Coventry. This year, Coventry is the European City of Culture. So again, it's great that a rugby league game will be part of that cultural festival. So there's some great places to go and watch the sports being played.
That's amazing. When I post this, Chris, I will put links to it as well. So if anything happens, and then obviously we can allow more people into the stadium, then there'll be a link to the website as well. I think it's key, and I think it's crucial. I think that more and more organisations want to have that diversity and inclusion, especially nowadays. I'm seeing it more and more so, and I just think that people want to get behind sports, and especially if it involves everybody. That's just so cool. And anything I can do to support and help with this podcast.
Thank you, appreciate that.
But Chris, if we look back on every single position, everything that you've held, everything that you've done, what is your proudest moment?
Oh gosh, my proudest moment would have been receiving my MBE, and it's proud for a reason that whilst my mum didn't have much money, she gave me the most amazing love and affection. She taught me some amazing values, John, and sadly she passed 11 years ago. My mum loved the royal family, and the tie I wore at Buckingham Palace was the tie I wore at my mum's funeral, because I wanted part of my mum to be with me that day, because I think she'd have been proud of a little boy. And part of my motivation is in memory of my mum. One of the lessons she taught me really early on, John, which has never left me, will never leave me. I lived in the council estate. I lived in a cul-de-sac, and there was several elderly people in the cul-de-sac, and I was a good runner. I could run fast. So if my mum sent me to the shops, she'd make me knock on the elderly people's door before I went to the shops and asked if they wanted anything from the shops. And because my mum said by the time you get there and get back, they possibly only just got the coat on and got to the end of the gate. So she said, your job is to always help others where you can. And that's me as a 6-year-old getting that lesson. So I look back and it's a privilege to get an honour. I didn't expect it. It was for services to sport and charity. But it was my proudest moment because my mum would have been proud. And therefore I've repaid part of my mum's legacy, not by the award, but what I received the award for, which is making a positive difference to people's lives. And I'm just privileged and proud to have been recognised, and that is my proudest moment.
Yeah, it's absolutely extraordinary, and congratulations to you on that. But also, it's just, obviously the values that have been ingrained in you at such a young age. It's just brilliant. Like I love the fact that you were saying that your mum would always ask you to knock on the elderly people's doors, because of the fact that by the time that you get there and back, they'll just be putting their coat on. I think that's just it is heartwarming hearing that stuff, and what you're doing and how you're helping people is just amazing. And yeah, I really, really can't thank you enough for sharing your story and being on this week's episode. What can we expect for you other than the rugby league this year? What else have you got going on?
Well, I'm currently working with a really, really cool company called Zellar, Zellar. And what I'm also passionate about is leaving the planet in a better place than when I arrived. So sustainability. And Zellar is a great startup business that wants to be able to help companies first, but domestic residences next, actually understand their carbon footprint by looking at not just energy, but also how they treat waste, how they treat water, the whole bit around sustainable products and services. And not only does Zellar help organisations understand what their score is, but actually helps them reduce the score by perhaps green energy or different suppliers. And then even if an organisation can't get it down to zero through their own means, and there are several in the hospitality industry, for example, that do consume carbon, that Zellar will help them offset it through either trees planted in this country, but also things like offsetting through use of soil and the correct type of soil that is sustainable and eco-friendly. So I'm working hard with Zellar to get a launch in June of this year, and that means an awful lot to me, because it is going to leave the planet in a better place than when we found it. And I think we have a responsibility of adults to leave something positive for our children to inherit. So I'm a great fan of sustainability as well. So that I'm working on that. I'm also working with a great community company called Her Spirit. When you look at physical activity levels in this country, they're not where we need them to be. And if you then look at the difference between men and women, women are less active than men. So Her Spirit is about how do we help women from all parts of the UK, from all walks of life, actually be more confident in, we call it mind, body and fuel. So we help them with their thinking, we help them with their fuel intake, what they consume, and also how do we get them active. And it's not about running marathons and climbing mountains. It's genuinely about how can we work together as a community to help each other live longer, in effect, and have healthier and happier lives. So those are the couple of other projects I'm working on outside of the traditional sport and the World Cup.
That's brilliant. That's honestly, it's absolutely incredible, and you're really obviously trying to make a huge positive impact in the world, and what you're getting involved in is just is crucial, and I think it's key. And yeah, I wish you all the best with everything that you're doing. And yeah, it's just been an absolute pleasure chatting to you, Chris. I honestly, I'm so excited to be releasing this episode so other people can hear what we've been chatting. So no, thank you so much. It really means a lot to me.
John, it's an absolute pleasure. As I say, I'm a huge fan of the podcast, a huge fan of your journey and your story, and I think you inspire others as well. So if I've played a small part in anybody watching or listening to this, then I'm absolutely delighted, John. But I think you deserve an awful lot of credit as well for the journey you've been on and the work you do in making others better at who they are and what they do. So thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. That really does mean a lot. And to be honest, Chris, because you do so much, I've literally got a list of about 40 different questions that I could ask you, about companies and how we can coach individuals and how to become more resilient. But we could save that for another podcast, maybe.
John, if anybody wants to listen to me, then I'd love to do another podcast with you and cover a few more areas that I enjoy talking about. So feel free to extend another invite anytime soon.
Amazing. No, thank you so much, Chris. It's been a pleasure, and take care.
Cheers, John. All the very best. Thank you.